नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशकारिणे वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So we begin with the sixth chapter. I wasn't doing this for a long time, so there is a gap. But we had completed fifth chapter in our earlier discussions, and we are about to begin the sixth chapter. So, as I've been saying several times before, we are looking at certain salient points spoken by Sripad Yamunacharya in his Gita-artha Sangraha, as well as Sripad Ramanujacharya in his commentary. Okay, so that is the focus that we are having in this particular theme. And of course, Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, as we know, is very close to Ramanujacharya's commentary. So many points overlap. So generally, the ones that are overlapping, I'm not speaking so much on that. I'm speaking only the ones that are slightly different. Okay, because the ones that are overlapping, we have anyway already studied and looked at it before. Right. So before we begin the sixth chapter, here is the verse by Yamunacharya in his Gita-artha Sangraha. As you know, the Gita-artha Sangraha is a beautiful work in which Yamunacharya has summarized every chapter in just one verse. This is a very amazing ability, to be able to summarize an entire chapter of Bhagavad Gita very succinctly in just one verse. So have a look at this one. This is the verse number 10, which you see here on the screen, is the one which is the summary of the sixth chapter. So this is where we begin our discussion today. Okay, so this verse goes like this. I'll just read the verse and then we will see the explanation. Yoga Bhyasa Vidhi Yogi Chaturda Yoga Sadhanam Yoga Siddhi Swa Yogasya Paranyam Shashta Uchyate. Okay, so Shashta Uchyate means the sixth chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So Yamunacharya says the sixth chapter of Bhagavad Gita has 5 themes. First, he's saying is Yoga Bhyasa Vidhi. Yoga Bhyasa Vidhi means how to do yoga. Okay, and this is the first 28 verses of the sixth chapter. How to do yoga, which is called as Dhyana Yoga. Now, another interesting thing here is in the commentary of Ramanujacharya, he basically explains that this Dhyana Yoga, which is spoken by Krishna, this yoga which is spoken by Krishna in this chapter, is for the Karma Yogi at home. Okay, so he says that because till now Krishna spoke till 5th chapter about Karma Yoga, right? We went through 3rd chapter, 4th chapter, and 5th chapter in great detail, and we understood clearly that the content is Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is being spoken in this chapter. So when Krishna is speaking 6th chapter, this yoga which he is using here in the 6th chapter, this yoga is obviously the Dhyana Yoga, right? It's not Karma Yoga. But this Dhyana Yoga is supposed to be done by the Karma Yogi at home for some time, right? So that means the Karma Yogi, besides doing his whatever Karma Yoga with all the characteristics and attributes that we discussed in the previous 3 chapters, is now expected to take some time out and do the process of Ashtanga Yoga sitting at home only. He's not going anywhere for it. Okay, this is how Ramanujacharya describes, and it is very clear from the text also. I will explain that as we go ahead. So basically, there is a continuity that is expressed here. So it's not that the 6th chapter is talking about Dhyana Yoga, means the Dhyana Yoga is to be done in the forest or anything. It is not so much like that. He says that it is to be done by the Karma Yogi daily. He's supposed to take out some time, half an hour, 1 hour, or whatever, and do this yoga abhyasa at home along with his Karma Yoga, and then he will progress. So this is how he presents it. Okay. So yoga abhyasa vidhi, that is the first topic in the 6th chapter, and this is spoken in the first 28 verses of the 6th chapter. Okay, then there is what is calling as Yoga Abhyasa Vitihi Yogi Chaturtha. Yogi Chaturtha means 4 states of achievements of yogi. That means 4 levels in a yogi, right? Like level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. This is between verse number 29 and 32. This part is very beautiful. The commentary here of Ramanuja is very nicely explaining the different levels of Ashtanga Yogi, the progress of it. Okay, so this is Yogi Chaturtha. Chaturtha matlab 4 types of yogi. Then Yoga Sadhanam. Yoga Sadhanam means how to do yoga sadhana means some key aspects of yoga, which is basically abhyasa and vairagya. Okay, so this comes between verse number 33 and 36. Right, we all know about the discussion between Krishna and Arjuna, where Krishna says that by abhyasa and vairagya, one should do this yoga. So that is the yoga sadhana which Krishna is speaking here. Then the fourth element of the 6th chapter, Krishna is saying is yoga siddhi. Yoga siddhi means how do you complete the yoga process. Siddhi matlab, here siddhi means how do you complete it. So why yoga siddhi? Because between verse number 37 and 46, Krishna and Arjuna are discussing about a yogi who has fallen away, right? Who has brushed, who has left the path of yoga, could not complete it. How does he achieve siddhi? Siddhi as in the fulfillment of it. Okay, so that is the yoga siddhi. That is the fourth theme of this chapter. And then finally, Yogasya Paramyam. Yogasya Paramyam means the ultimate goal of a yogi. It's basically Krishna speaks in 6.47. Yoginam api sarvesham madgater antaratmana shraddhavan bhajateyama samayukatamama. So that means one who focuses on Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is Yogasya Paramyam. Paramyam means he has reached the top pinnacle of the yoga system. Right. So in this way, very beautifully, Yamunacharya is summarizing the entire 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita in a single verse. Right. Beautiful verse again. We'll just read it again. Yoga Abhyasa Vidihi Yogi Chaturtha Yoga Sadhanam Yoga Siddhi Swa Yogasya Paramyam Shashta Uchyate. Yoga Abhyasa Vidihi means the method of doing Jnana Yoga. Yogi Chaturtha means the 4 types of yogis, Dhyana yogis. Yoga sadhana means 2 key aspects of Dhyana yoga, that is Abhyasa and Vairagya. Yoga siddhi means how to achieve perfection in yoga, even if somebody falls down, etc. And Yogasya Paramyam means the topmost yogi, which is the devotee of Krishna. Alright, so in this way, the entire 6th chapter has been summarized very beautifully, I would say, by Sripad Yamunacharya in this one verse, right? With this, now we will enter the 6th chapter. Okay, so I'm using the text here. I will also be using Prabhupada's translation, but we will be looking at as I said earlier many times, we are looking at only the salient aspects of Ramanujacharya's explanation, which is not already covered, right? Because there are so many aspects of the Acharya's explanation, Prabhupada's explanation, which are very, very similar to Ramanujacharya, obviously, because they are all deriving from the same place, right? So those aspects I'm not touching just to save on time. I'm only speaking about the different aspects. Okay, so here we go. Let's enter the 6th chapter. Okay, so the 6th chapter, Ramanujacharya again, he says very nicely that Ramanujacharya, he says that in every chapter of Gita, in the last 1 or 2 verses, Krishna speaks about what is in the next chapter. Okay, so he makes a continuation. Okay, so just like, to give a very mundane example, like in television serials, sometimes they do that, right? They show something and at the end, they show 10 seconds of what is going to come in the next episode, right? So something like that. If you see the 5th chapter also, in verse number 27 and 28, if you see the 5th chapter, verse 27 and 28, Krishna has already introduced Jnana Yoga there, right? Parshan Kritva Bahir Bahyam Chakshur Saivantare Dhruvoho. That 27th and 28th verse, I'm not going back to that, we've already discussed those verses. But in those 2 verses, Krishna is very clearly talking about how one should focus within and in this way practice yoga, and that is Jnana Yoga. So that is already introduced in the 5th chapter in the end. Okay. So now in the sixth chapter. Now the sixth chapter, what is going to happen? Ramanujacharya says the first 9 verses, Krishna is simply doing a recap of whatever has been done till now. Okay. That means third chapter, fourth chapter, and fifth chapter, where Krishna spoke about Karma Yoga, is again being explained by Krishna once again in 9 verses. Right. So that any confusion about that becomes very, very clear. One is clarified. Right. So that is the first 9 verses. So in fact, we will perhaps do only that much today. We will actually not be able to go to Dhyana Yoga today itself. So let's start with the verses. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Anashrita Karma Phalam Karyam Karma Karoti Yaha Sa Sannyasi Cha Yogi Cha Na Nirajnir Na Chastriyaha. Okay, beautiful verse again. Anashrita Karma Phalam. How many times Krishna is emphasizing? So the translation, proper translation I'm reading. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, one who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as he is obliged is in the renounced order of life, and he is a true mystic, not he who lights no fire and performs no duty. Okay, so this is Prabhupada's translation. So Anashrita Karma Phalam. Okay, so again, once again, Krishna is emphasizing on what he has already spoken before, Nishkama Karma. Right, that one has to do Karyam Karma. See, the word Karyam Karma means I have to do the work. There is no escape from that. So Ramanujacharya explains there are so much of work that is karma that is recommended for a person. So he gives an example, just like to get married and to have children, it's karma yoga. Right? One is everyone is expected to get married and have children and expand the family lineage. Now, for this purpose, person has to do some karma. Okay, the karma can be seen either as the Garbhadan Samskar, or he says it can even be seen as certain yajnas that a person may do. Correct? Like Putra Kameshi yajna was done by Dashrath Maharaj. There are so many yajnas are also there, which are all karma only, which are done. So Ramanujacharya says, an ordinary person does these rituals or karma. Okay, he gets married, he has children, or he does all these yajnas for the fruit. That means he does these things thinking that I'm going to enjoy something. But he says here, Krishna is expecting the karma yogi to do the same things. You will also get married, you will also do Garbhadan Sanskar to have children, and so on. But now you do all this as an offering to the Lord, just to please the Lord. That means you do it because it has to be done. You are not doing it because you want to enjoy. So he says that this is the mood of the karma yogi, which Krishna is summarizing in the 6th chapter opening verse. So one has to do all those karmas which a normal karmi may do in terms of all these entering Grihastha itself is a huge karma per se. As in, there are so many activities that are to be done. Here, karma means various actions that are to be done as a part of that. One procreates children. One, like if you see Krishna book 70th chapter, it talks about what all Krishna is doing daily. Right? He's doing so many things. He's giving charity. He's arranging the marriage of his daughters. He's welcoming a daughter-in-law in one house. So Narad Muni is seeing all these things. So all this is action which is being done. It is karma, you can say. But the mood here is anashrita. That means I am doing this because it is to be done. Karyam karma. Karna hai isliye main kar raha hu. Karyam karma means that. Karoti hai. So sannyasi cha yogi cha. Here Ramanujacharya says, what do you mean by sannyasi? Why is Krishna talking about sannyasi here suddenly? So he says here, sannyasi, the word sannyasi means we should understand it to be jnana yogi. Okay, so he says that here sannyasi means not literal the sannyas of the varnashram, but jnana yogi. The reason is jnana yogi traditionally was generally a sannyasi. Or most sannyasis are generally jnana yogi. So these two terms, jnana yogi and sannyasi, are kind of interchangeable. He says. It is correct also. Because sannyasi means he generally restrains from any type of action or karma. Right? So sannyasi. And here yogi, in this word, yogi means Ramanujacharya says karma yogi. Here it is not dhyana yogi because Krishna has not yet started dhyana yoga. He's talking about karma yoga only over here. Okay, so sannyasi yogi. So Krishna is saying that such a person is a sannyasi. As in, so such a person is a sannyasi means what? what Krishna wants to say, such a karma yogi is a jnana yogi as well. That is what Krishna wants to say. Okay, so let's try to understand this. The sannyasi yogi means Krishna is trying to say such a karma yogi who is doing karma, whatever its karma may be, right? Whatever action according to varnashram he may be doing, but if he is doing it consciously, that I am doing it only to please the Lord. I'm not doing it because I'm greedy for the result. Okay, so this is the consciousness with which he has to start doing the work. If he's doing like that, Krishna is saying such a yogi, such a karma yogi is a sannyasi. That means he is a jnana yogi as well. He's a jnana yogi in what sense? How can you call him a sannyasi? Somebody may say, "Arey, isko sannyasi kaise bol sakte hain? How can we call him a sannyasi?" So Ramanuja says, he's sannyasi because he's getting the same fruit. Okay, that means the result of both are same. That is why he's called a sannyasi. That means a person by taking sannyas or by doing jnana yoga, what result he would get? What is the result? He would go on the path of self-realization. And the same thing this karma yogi is also going to get. That is why he says, Krishna is saying, so sannyasi cha yogi cha. And then by saying, na niragnir na chakriyah, that means na niragnir na chakriyah. Na niragni means what? One who doesn't like fire. Now, why is this word used? Fire is used because in our Vedic system, any type of karma involves fire. Like a person gets married, there is fire, right? There is Agni. Any samskar, even actually Garbhadan samskar or any samskar you want to do, Simantanayan samskar, there is fire. Okay. So fire here is standing for what the karma yogi does. And kriya. Kriya also means what karma yogi does. So in fact, Ramanujacharya says this verse, what Krishna is ultimately saying is that a karma yogi is incorporating the good of jnana yogi also. How is he incorporating? Because he's getting the same benefit of a jnana yogi. That is why Krishna is saying he's sannyasi. But not only he's incorporating the benefit of the jnana yogi, he's slightly better because he's getting the benefit of karma yoga also, right? Because as karma yogi, he is starting a fire, he's doing work. So that protection is also there for him, which is not there for a jnana yogi. Okay, so that is the implied meaning in this verse over here. Okay, so Krishna wishes to say again, summarize the whole thing, which he is speaking in the last 3 chapters, that a karma yogi is better situated than a jnana yogi. For one thing is, he's getting the same result of a jnana yogi, and at the same time, he is getting some result of the karma yogi also, which the jnana yogi doesn't get. So that protection is not having, because he's not engaged in work, right? So that risk is always there. Okay, which has already been explained before in the previous 3 chapters. So this way, this opening verse itself is so beautiful. Of the 6th chapter, it just summarizes everything. So why are we talking about all this? Because as Ramanujacharya says here that the Dhyana Yoga, which is going to be spoken in the 6th chapter, is for the Karma Yogi. Okay, this is not, so again, so it's a very wonderful way of looking at it, because now you will see the Gita in a continuation. I mean, it's not that till now Krishna spoke Karma Yoga and then suddenly he said, Chalo, abhi sab side pe rakho and now just start doing meditation. It doesn't make any sense, right? How can it make sense? Because if you had to do Karma Yoga, if Krishna spoke 3 chapters or 4 chapters on Karma Yoga and suddenly he starts talking about meditation, which has no connection to a Karma Yogi, then it seems as if all the chapters are cancelled and now you have to just sit and do Dhyan. So Ramanujacharya says, no, that is not how we are going to understand the Gita. In this verse, when Krishna is saying that the yogi, the word yogi used here is karma yogi only. In this verse, 6.1. Ahead from the 10th verse, Krishna will start talking about dhyana yogi. That part is accepted. But in this verse, he's talking about karma yogi because it is this karma yogi who is going to be called as the eligible candidate for dhyana yoga. Okay, so he is the candidate for dhyana yoga के लिए candidate चाहिए ना आपको, a suitable candidate. He is the candidate. So this is how Ramanujacharya explains the first verse. Right. Let's move to the second verse. Here Krishna is saying, Yam sannyasam iti prahur yogam tam viddhi pandava nashya sannyasta sankalpo yogi bhavati kaschana. Okay, so we are reading Prabhupada's translation. What is called renunciation, you should know to be the same as yoga or linking oneself with the Supreme, O son of Pandu. For one can never be a yogi unless he renounces the desire for sense gratification. Okay, so let's go back to the verse and explore the words. Actually, the Gita is so beautiful. It's kind of my dream. I have not yet achieved it. I wish to really. I feel that myself and almost everyone should. We should have all these verses literally by heart, and we should be able to remember everything in the verse itself, because everything is there in the verse. If you see carefully, in the words itself, so much of stuff is put. So in this verse, what is Krishna talking about? Again, in this verse, Krishna is showing that Jnana Yoga is contained in Karma Yoga. How is that? Krishna, what is he saying in the first line? Yam sannyasa miti prahu. Yam sannyasa miti prahu. Yogam tam vidhi Pandava. Krishna is saying, what is sannyas is the same as yoga, Krishna is saying. So what is the sannyas here again? Once again, Ramanujacharya says the sannyas of the renunciation which is spoken in this verse is Jnana Yoga. Okay. Krishna is saying that because it is the same thing, right? So an example is given, just like we sometimes say Gangayam Goshaka. Gangayam Goshaka means the village on the Ganga. When you say village on the Ganga, it doesn't mean literally on the Ganga there is a village. What it means, on the banks of the Ganga there is a village, and we are speaking about that village. So similarly, in these verses, when Krishna is speaking sannyas is the Jnana Yoga part. The Jnana Yoga part, that is the sannyas. So Krishna is saying, Yam sannyasa miti prahu. What is called as sannyas? Yogam tam vidhi Pandava. Understand that to be yoga. Yoga means what here again? Which yoga? Karma Yoga. Because still no Karma Yoga only was spoken, right? We have not yet come to Jnana Yoga. So this yoga here again is Karma Yoga only. Okay. So what is Krishna saying? Krishna is saying that what is uh, known as what is Jnana Yoga is the same as Karma Yoga. In which sense it is same? It is same in the sense of the result, right? We have been saying the same thing again and again. Same as result. Same result means what? The Atma Jnana, self-realization, which is the goal of Jnana Yoga, can be achieved by Karma Yoga also. Hence it is same. That is why Krishna is saying, Yam sannyasa miti prahur yogam tam vidhi Pandava. Okay. So what is sannyas is the same as yoga means the benefit of Jnana Yoga, which is attaining self-realization, is going to be attained in Karma Yoga also. Karma Yoga में भी वही self-realization आपको मिलने वाला है. So it is the same thing, Krishna saying. Okay. So somebody may say, how like that? How can you say? How can so then the question comes, how can Karma Yogi come to such a level of a Jnana Yogi? Okay. So for that there is a qualification mentioned. Okay. In the previous verse it was said anasrita. Anasrita means one should do detached, right, from the result. Here another qualification is spoken. What is the qualification? Nashya sanyasta sankalpo yogi bhavati kashana. Nashya sanyasta sankalpo. Sanyasta. Sankalpo means what? The word sankalpa, samkalpa. Ramanuja splits it as samkalpa. Sam means, sama means together. Sama. Like I believe that even the English word same is similar to sama. Maybe it comes from the same place. Somebody who's a linguist can find that out. But samkalpa mein sama means same. Kalpa means to think. Kalpana bolte हैं ना हम लोग. Kalpana means to think. So samkalpa means to think something to be the same. To think what to be the same? Body and soul to be the same. So sankalpa in this section of the Gita, sankalpa means to think body and soul to be the same. That means to misidentify with the body. Okay, so this sankalpa is not in Sanskrit. There is another word sankalpa. We all know. Like suppose you sit for a marriage or some ritual, then we do a sankalpa. We call that sankalpa. Sankalpa means I promise to do this particular ritual. We take you sit for Shraddha ceremony, you sit for a wedding ceremony. The priest will make you do sankalpa. ये वो sankalpa नहीं है. ये sankalpa means to think samkalpa. You have to split the word over there. That means to think two things to be the same. And what are the two things? The body and the soul. So nashya sanyasta sankalpa. Sanyasta means what? To give up. That means जिसने वो संकल्प छोड़ दिया. कौन सा संकल्प छोड़ दिया? To think that the body and soul are same. ये understanding को जिसने छोड़ दिया. Or in other words, what does that mean? That means one who has given up the bodily consciousness of life. Okay. Yogi bhavati kashana. He is the yogi. So what is Krishna saying? Krishna is saying that, so why is Jnana Yoga same as Karma Yoga? Because in Karma Yoga, one has to give up this false understanding that the body and the Atma are same. and then you are supposed to do work. That means you are supposed to do work giving up bodily consciousness of life. And because you are doing work giving up bodily consciousness of life, you are as good as a jnani. Because what is the purpose of a jnani, for sannyasi? He is also wanting to give up the bodily concept of life. So if a karma yogi can do that, then both are same. And that is what Krishna is saying here. Yam sannyasam iti prahur yogam tam vidhi Pandavas. The sannyasi is the same as yogi. That means jnana yoga and karma yoga are going to be the same result. Why? Neksha sannyasta sankalpo. That means, and who is the yogi? Who is that yogi whom we are talking about? One who has given up the bodily conception of life. And that's exactly, you see Prabhupada's translation also, na, the same point comes. Prabhupada says here, for one can never become a yogi unless he renounces the desire for sense gratification. Which is perfect, right? In the translation, the same concept is covered. Okay, though you may not find, so how is that explanation covered? Because if you give up bodily, if you give up the misidentification with the body, then you will give up sense gratification automatically. So sense gratification is an outcome of misidentifying with the body, right? Misidentifying the body as the self. Okay, so if one has actually given up that, then automatically one gives up sense gratification. So that's what Prabhupada is saying in the translation. Okay, so apparently the translations look different, but it is coming from the same place, right? As in it's meaning the same thing. So beautifully, if you see, in the first two verses of this chapter, Krishna has basically said that, yeah, the Karma Yoga is as good as a Jnana Yogi. In fact, he's a notch better because he's doing work, he's lighting fire, which the Jnana Yogi doesn't have shelter of all that. So many things Krishna has already spoken previously related to this. Okay, so Nikhya Sanyasta Sankalpa Yogi Bhavati Kashana. One who doesn't give up that misidentification, he cannot be a yogi. Ramanujacharya said this is a very powerful way of making a statement. So Ramanujacharya gives an example. It's just like, we can make a statement, Arjuna is a good archer. Arjuna is a good archer if you say it looks very simple, right? But if you say no one is as good an archer as Arjuna, that is even more strong. Right? No one is as good an archer as Arjuna. That's even more strong way of saying. So similarly, here when Krishna says, you cannot be a yogi until you have given up this misidentification with the body, that's a very powerful way of making a statement. It's more powerful than simply saying that the karma yogi gives up bodily identification. So that seems more like saying Arjuna is a great archer. But here we are saying you cannot be a yogi unless you've given up bodily identification. So it's a more strong lesson. So Karma Yoga is a very, very lofty theme, right, in the Gita. It covers so many things, and that's what exactly it seems like. Right. So Krishna has already opened up these two verses. Now let's go on to the third and the fourth. So now what Krishna is going to do? Krishna is going to talk about, Krishna is basically going to say who has to do Karma Yoga, who can do Jnana Yoga, okay, and so on. So we'll just look at these two verses also. Beautiful verses again. Aruruksho muner yogam karma karana mukshate, yoga rudasya tasyeva shamak karana mukshate. So this is the third verse of the sixth chapter, which I just read. And here is the translation. Prabhupada says, for one who is a neophyte in the eightfold yoga system, work is said to be the means. And for one who is already elevated in yoga, cessation of all material activities is said to be the means. Okay, so let's discuss this verse. Aruruksho muner yogam. Okay, so now what's going to happen now? Now onwards, the word yoga is going to be a more intrinsic. So now onwards, we are entering Dhyana Yoga now. Okay, so Krishna is talking about Dhyana Yogi actually now onwards, the word yoga. So here onwards it changes. So Krishna is saying here, Aruruksho muner yogam karma karanam uchyate. Aruruksho means, Aruruksho is referring to the neophyte in yoga. Okay. And also Aruruksho in Sanskrit means climbing. Aruruksho it means climbing the yoga. So this yoga ladder that we talk now, that actually comes from this verse only. From this verse only, this whole concept of yoga ladder comes. So the idea is one who has just started climbing the yoga ladder, Aruruksho, karma karanam uchyate. Usko to karma yoga karna hi hai. He has to do karma yoga. Okay, so that is why Prabhupada is also saying that the neophyte in the yoga system has to do activities. He has to be engaged. Okay. So that is the first line. Okay, so the first line, Krishna is saying that the beginner in the yoga system who is climbing that ladder of yoga, he has to do work. Yoga rudasya tasyeva. Yoga ruda means one who has reached the pinnacle of yoga. Yoga ruda in Sanskrit means advanced in yoga. Shama karanam uchyate. Shama means it literally it has two, three meanings. One meaning of Shama is control of senses, but another meaning of Shama here is activities can be given up. That means one who is advanced in yoga, he may not do any activity. Okay, so in this verse, Krishna is speaking about the advanced yogi. That for him, activity is not binding. Okay, now please remember. This concept Krishna has already touched previously. If you recall our third chapter, we had read in the 17th verse. Yes, so atmariterevasya atmakritasya manava atmanyevacha santushta tasya karyam na vidyate. The third chapter, 17th verse, Krishna has said one who is taking pleasure in the self, tasya karyam na vidyate. Usko kuch karya karna bandhan karak nahi hai. He need not do anything. Okay. But then Krishna has already given his opinion about that, right? In the 18th verse. Krishna said, Naiva tasya kritena artho na kritena tasya nachasa sarva bhuteshu kasya upasreya. In the later verses, Krishna said, but even such a person must work. To set an example for people in general. Okay. So that means there are 2 points here. Technically, such a person who is advanced in yoga, he need not do anything. Okay. Technically speaking, he is freed. One who is self-realized, one who is very advanced in yoga. And who is that advanced person? We are going to see that. No? Uska definition aa raha hai aage. So nobody can simply say that I am advanced in yoga. So who is that advanced? Krishna is defining that in the next verse. So we are going to see this point very soon. But here Krishna is saying such a person need not do. But Krishna has already said in the third chapter, so that's why that point is not going to be explained again here, that yes, we need not do technically, but in practice he has to do to set an example for people in general. And in that context only Krishna had brought Janaka, etc. Okay, so this is the connection. Okay, now going ahead. Now look at now the question is, who is Yoga Ruda? Because everybody will like this stage. Na? Even Arjuna initially wanted to do this only. He didn't want to do any activity. So who is this person who is advanced in yoga? Uska qualification kya hai? Look at the fourth verse. Krishna is talking about Yoga Ruda, the qualification of that person. Yadahi nendriya teshu nakarma sajjate sarva sankalpa sannyasi yoga ruda sadochyate. Okay. Reading from Prabhupada's translation, a person is said to be elevated in yoga when, having renounced all material desires, he neither acts for sense gratification nor engages in creative act. Okay, so let's come to the verse again. Yadahi nendriyarteshu na karma svanu sajjate. Okay, so Ramanujacharya says that see, the 5 senses have 5 objects. Right? So all the senses have objects, not attached to obtain objects of the senses, and not attached to accumulating the happiness by those objects, is Yoga Ruda. Okay, so basically that means each sense is a sense object. Okay, so one is that you should not be attached to the object of the senses. That is the first thing. Second, that is what is coming in Indriyarteshu. Yadahi Nendriyarteshu, na? We are explaining that word, Indriyarteshu. That means every sense has a sense object. So the Yoga Ruda is one who is not attached to the objects of senses, is not attached to accumulating those objects, and also is not attached to any happiness that comes from that object. Okay, so it's a very advanced stage if you see clearly. Okay, he is not at all attached to any happiness also that is coming. Okay, so na anusajjate. This na anusajjate, Ramanujacharya says, is naturally not attracted to these. To indicate that in the beginning stages of Karma Yoga, one forcibly tries to stay away from it. So that's the difference between the neophyte Karma Yogi and the advanced Karma Yogi. The neophyte Karma Yogi, he has an attraction, but because he knows what is correct, what is not correct, with knowledge he tries to do things. But this person is, very naturally completely detached. Sarva Sankalpa Sannyasi. Again, Sankalpa means what? The same word. That means all misunderstandings of Atma. Sannyasi means what here? To give up. Sannyas matlab yahan chodna. That means he has given up all wrong conceptions of Atma. That means all wrong conceptions of Atma, all misunderstandings of Atma, he has given up. Okay, and such a person is said to be Yoga Ruda. Okay, so this is certainly a very high level of Karma Yogi, where there is absolutely no attachment to any type of enjoyment, etc. So please note, when we say Karma Yogi also should be detached, we are not very theoretical in that. We understand that he will have the new Karma Yogi will have some attachment, but still he, so that's why in the second chapter there was this verse, we have discussed this before, where Krishna says, Nabhinandati nadveshti. Nabhinandati nadveshti tasya prajapati. That means you don't become too happy or you don't become too sad. It's a very interesting point. That means even when we say that the karma yogi, anashrita karma phalam and all, it is a different levels, anashrita. Okay. At a more reasonable level expectation, which Krishna has already stated in second chapter, don't become overly joyous when nice things happen. Nice things will happen, you will feel good. That is natural. But don't jump too much. Okay. Be in control when some things nice happen in your life. And when some things don't go well, then don't become too disappointed. You will become disappointed. That is the meaning of that verse, Nabhi Nandati Nadveshti. Nabhi. If you go back to 2.57 Bhagavad Gita, see the translation also. The translation is one should not become overly joyous on achieving something favorable and overly sad on losing something, right, which one desired or whatever. Okay. But in this stage of Yoga Ruda, one has gone even beyond that. Okay, so one is like Prahlad Maharaj or something, where he is like, it's not about not being overly joyous. He's not at all affected only. Okay, by that. So this is a very advanced stage. So such a person, yeah, he is, he has reached the pinnacle of Karma Yoga. So okay, so thus the way I look at it is Krishna is very, very reasonable in his expectation. He is giving us a path where everyone can begin and slowly rise to the level of perfection. Okay. Now in the next, so I've just completed the first 4 verses. I'm not going to go ahead right now. I'm just going to take another topic. So I'll just 1 second. I'll stop the sharing here. I will, yeah. So 1 second. So it's related to this point, but I said I'm going to speak on that. Yeah. 1 second. Yeah. So since we are coming to the end of this entire discussion of Karma Yoga, because we are going to Jnana Yoga, I just thought that there were some themes of Karma Yoga we had not touched on. So I just wanted to complete that. So in some sense, the Karma Yoga of Bhagavad Gita can be referred to in English as a path of self-discovery. Self-discovery means to understand oneself, what one is capable of, and progress in that direction. Okay. So this is considered very important because if the self-discovery is not there, that innate satisfaction and confidence never arises in a person. Okay, everyone in this world is going to obtain a basic satisfaction when we understand as per the nature of our body and mind what we are supposed to do and how we are supposed to act in this world. That itself gives a phenomenal amount of confidence, self-satisfaction to a person, and that's the beauty of the Karma Yoga part, right? Even though the Karma Yoga is done Nishkama, Anashrita Karma Phalam, but that action itself is such that it will keep you pacified. Okay, so just like Arjuna, he is not supposed to fight because he wants a kingdom. So at least not always supposed to think that I want to win and hence I'm fighting, because that is not in his control. But the act of fighting itself is going to satisfy him, because as per his body and mind, he's a Kshatriya. And simply by doing the action of fighting, he's going to be self-fulfilled. Okay? And which is what we see, right? I mean, we see that. And that part is not negated or cancelled. Nobody is saying that you should not at all, you should not do something which your mind and senses are not in line with. Okay, so this is the theme which Krishna has already spoken earlier, correct? So self-discovery is such an important theme in the modern world also, which unfortunately gets neglected. Especially, we see many times that people look at the success of somebody else as personal success, right? I mean, many times it happens that in all this watching commercial sports or even movies, etc., we see the success of someone else and we think that is our success, forgetting that I have not yet achieved what I am supposed to. Okay, so this is something very interesting. However, so this is coming from one psychologist, but it is very much in line with the Gita and also the Mahabharata. I'll bring you to that. Okay, there is another term in English in psychology which is called as self-improvement. Okay, so self-improvement means where one focuses on one thing only and just spends all his time in that without really having a holistic development. Okay, so I'll just give you examples and tell you what I'm saying. If you see two characters in Mahabharata, Karuna and Arjuna. Arjuna, we can say that truly he had a self-discovery because he not only understood his own nature as a Kshatriya, he understood he's good with archery and he practiced that. But then he also spent a lot of time in understanding other aspects of his personal life, which he gave a lot of time to. Correct? Like if you know something about Arjuna, he cultivated the knowledge of Gandharva Vidya, right? Like he was interested in music, dance, etc. And he learned that also. And which is why we see during Agyatavas, he was teaching that to Uttara in the form of Brihannala. He was teaching her music and dance because that also he had learned. Now, please try to appreciate this point. I think when we say Arjuna was focusing himself as a Kshatriya, that Kshatriya as part of his self-discovery as a holistic individual also needs to have other aspects to his life. Okay, so for example, he had so many, the Pandavas had so much of discourses with saintly people in the forest, correct? It is not that the Pandavas, when they went to the forest, or only thing they were doing is shooting bow and arrow or fighting with the mace. And, you know, so what I'm saying is they spent a lot of time understanding themselves, where it was not just that Kshatriya was one part of their existence, but there were so many other parts. They were very philosophically inclined. They would always look for opportunities to meet great sages, discuss with them, correct, travel to holy places, beg as Gurukul, connect with society, correct, and learn music, dance, like I'm talking about our what is his name, Arjuna and so on, correct. But on the other hand, if you compare now, just compare this other guy called Karuna. You see, he was like, he nothing so much is spoken about him about this aspect. He focused a lot on his archery skills, certainly, and for which he was very desperate to become the, he was desperate to become better than Arjuna. That was his only focus. Unfortunately, you see, Arjuna didn't have that competitive mentality. He was not thinking this. Why this is very important is, please try to appreciate this. There's this movie based on which I'm talking right now. It's a very I didn't see that movie yet, but I was reading the storyline of it. It's called as Coach Carter. Okay, it's an American movie that was released in 2005. This movie basically talks about one basketball coach. Okay, his name is Carter. He joins a particular school to teach basketball to the children. And when he joins as a basketball coach, it's a true story. The story is based on a coach. This Carter was an actual basketball coach in 1999 in an American school. The movie was released in 2005. So the movie is an actual depiction of the actual story. Now, please try to hear the story in order to understand, what we are talking here, so that you can appreciate this particular point. Okay. So this particular coach Carter, as he's called, when he joined as a basketball coach in that school, he noticed that the students who were playing basketball in that particular school, they were only playing basketball. Self-improvement. You understood? That means they were only focused on just that one thing, day in and day out, how to play basketball. And they were doing well also in the local matches, winning against other schools and all that. But when this coach went, he said that this will not do. You can't only keep playing basketball. You will have to, study also. So he said that I will have only those people in the team who get at least some minimum grade in academics. You should not bunk school. You should not miss classes. You should pass in all your exams. You should not have any backlog, right? He said that you need to be an all-rounded individual. Okay, because why he said that, the Carter he says also, he says that very few people who start this basketball in school thinking that they will do only basketball actually become basketball professionals. Most of them, they just play for some time, and then because they have not had any career or anything proper, they just go in some direction, they go into drugs, this, that, and they're completely, their whole personal life falls apart. So he said that you must have a holistic life. You cannot think only about one thing as the only thing. Interestingly, Krishna says that also in Bhagavad Gita. When I was hearing this, I was thinking, Krishna says that it is in the mode of ignorance to think one thing as all in all. I hope all of you remember this verse. This is coming, I think, either in the 16th chapter, maybe the 17th chapter, Divisions of Faith. To think one thing as all in all, Krishna calls that as mode of ignorance. मतलब एक ही चीज पे यही है जीवन सोचना. Because life is not like that. Okay, so when we talk about Swadharma, when we talk about self-discovery, our Shastras are not asking us to go behind only one thing as all in all. Okay, that is like these Olympic. Do you know this? I mean, this is an interesting statistic. It seems that most of these people, who focus, especially China, Russia, many places in the world, it is observed, those who focus on getting gold medal in Olympics, it seems in personal life they become big failures. And actually, it is very, very cruel also on them. Like in China, you may notice that many of their people get gold medal in recent times. They're starting getting a lot of gold medal in Olympics. So you know how they do that. So when they are small children only, they see some talent. Let's say somebody 6-year-old, they understood this child is swimming nicely or diving nicely and all that. Then they will make that child do only that. मतलब पूरा उसका academics, everything, they just take the children out and they train them 10, 12, 18 hours a day only on that. Then automatically by the time they become 17, they will win a gold medal. But it seems statistics proves that, and there are written documents about this, that many of these people who like this, some work hard just in one direction, self-improvement, and get a gold medal, they end up being failures in life, because life is not just about swimming like this, right? I mean, you need to have a holistic life where you need to have understood yourself. So self-discovery, the Gita's focus on self-discovery, or Arjuna's personal example of Swadharma doesn't teach us like that. That's why I'm saying that when we read that Arjuna was practicing archery even at night, yes, he did that in one phase of life, but that's not all that he did. Okay, so this is a very important point to understand. He had a very holistic growth. That holistic growth makes you understand yourself. Because when we say self, there are so many aspects to ourself. The Kshatriya nature or the Brahmana nature may be one aspect of ourself. There are other aspects of ourself also that need fulfillment. Like for the emotional aspect, you need music, drama. Like that's why I said Arjuna was good with that also. He spent a lot of time in that. Okay, so self-discovery is a very wholesome thing. Whereas self-improvement is not like that. It is just focused in one direction. And as we quoted from Gita, thinking one thing as all in all is Krishna calls as mode of ignorance. So going back to that Coach Carter movie, so this basketball coach, what he does is he tells that no, you all can't do this. So initially it seems the parents of the children who are in the basketball team, the teachers, the principal of the school, all of them object against this basketball coach. They say what you're talking is nonsense, just you're spoiling the basketball career of these children, this, that. He says, no, if I am going to be the coach here, these are my rules. Otherwise, you remove me from the job. And then the story goes on where he basically, so what happens is, I mean, he sticks to his point, and eventually what happens is these children, there is a statistic that says all the children later they do well in life because they all go to college, they get degrees, they have a proper job. You know, he emphasizes on all those aspects of life also, family life, this, that. And they play basketball also to whatever level they can. Okay, so this is the movie, but it's a very interesting take, and it's a very interesting reminder as we are talking from the Gita about this third chapter that one has to have a holistic growth, which has to always be the focus of life. And we see that also. Anything, I mean, even if it is, I would dare say, even if it is spirituality, where one thinks that this is the only thing that I need to do and nothing else is important, even such a person can land in trouble, right? We've seen that. So to have that holistic understanding of self discovery, to practice the dharma as per the Gita is actual fact of life. And if you connect all these things, if you join all the dots together, you can also appreciate that the Mahabharata and the Gita is so relevant. It is so perfect in terms of the psychology of what it is addressing for all of us, right? So anyway, yeah, I think I'll stop here and take some questions if any, and then we will end the day. Yeah, thank you. Hare Krishna. Anyone any question? You can raise your hand. Any question? Any comment? Yeah, yeah, I'm just. Rajendra Kumar Prabhu, yeah, go ahead.
Haribol Prabhuji. So how to reconcile self-discovery with self-improvement? Because there's a lot of talk going on self-improvement. Many self-help books and what you say, influencers. They talk about self-improvement all the time.
Yeah,
So how to reconcile both? How to understand the broader perspective? Uh,
yeah, yeah. So that's why I was saying that I agree with this very much because sometimes success to see success very narrowly in life now is always a challenge. See, as a strategy, temporarily one may do it. Like just to give an example, like a boy or a girl who is studying. One second, I'll just change my location. There is some noise here. I just have to move to another place. Just give me a second. The light and again, the light, please. The light, please. The light. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I do agree with this. So my take on this is that temporary as a strategy for some time one may be focused on only one thing. Give a simple example, like a student 10th standard, he wants an admission in some medical college, engineering college after plus two. Then for 2 3 years he has to literally give up everything and do only one thing, studying for that exam. Correct? We see that with all our children, and they have to literally they have to stop all other aspects of their life, whatever they were interested in, everything they have to give up, and they have to focus only on this one thing, which is studies. Correct? Which is, I would say, which is still okay if it is a very short term strategy because it's at least for 2 years. But in that also there are its own repercussions, right? We see that when children they just focus on that one thing as all in all, there is actually so much stress also because there is no wholesome development in those 2 3 years. Correct? I had an experience with my son also when he was studying 11th and 12th. It was such a it was such a struggle at one point, and we see that with all children as well go through that phase for 2 years after 10th standard when they have to study. So as a as a very short-term strategy, one may be forced to do it. But if it is going to be long-term in any way, then it actually boomerangs. That is why I gave the example of the Chinese or Russian athletes also, who their system, what they do is just because they want them to get gold medal, they make them do the same things for a period of 10 years. Okay, they improve a lot. The self-improvement is achieved because gold medal is obtained. But then the self-discovery never happened, right? You never understood who you are. Okay, see, a person may be good with swimming. That doesn't mean that he has the mind of only swimming day in and day out and be happy and satisfied in that. Not necessary at all. A child at the age of 6 or 7 may be good with swimming. So if he's good with swimming and if you make him do 10 hours swimming daily, it is most likely that at the age of 17, 18, he will get a gold medal in the Olympics. That he will get. But then what about his personal satisfaction in terms of as he understood who he is? Because he may just not be a full-time swimmer. He may have other aspirations also, which never opened up because he thought that this is the only thing in life. The system made him feel that. Okay, so my take is that as a very short-term strategy, sometimes the world may force us to focus on self-improvement, which is okay if it is really short-term and sometimes it's unavoidable, as I gave the example. But if it is going to be long-term and for years and years one is thinking like that, then one denies the self, correct? One denies one's own need of mind and senses to be engaged in a particular way. Are you getting the point?
Yes, Prabhu, got it.
Yeah, yeah. Haribo. Yeah. Anybody else has any question, comment? Yeah, Vaibhavanand Prabhu, please go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much, Roju. Just wish to clarify, I have this question otherwise also, that did Srila Prabhupada, do we find any other Acharya translating, words like Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, other than Srila Prabhupada? Because I see from other Acharyas, they have given direct translation for these words, like Karma Yoga, they have called Karma Yoga only, and no other translations.
No,
So,
no. Prabhupada
yeah.
has also called third chapter in some places he has referred to as Karma Yoga only yoga. If you see third chapter, he has in couple of places he has said that. But one thing
Mm-hmm.
we have to understand, see, Prabhupada, he wrote his Bhagavad Gita very clearly with the goal of the the pinnacle of the Gita, which is pure devotional service to Krishna, is what he wanted to emphasize right from the beginning. Okay, so this was his broad strategy in presenting Gita, which is perfect and fine, right? Because in a way, that's where the Gita leads you to. So there is, so that is why, and I also believe that Prabhupada had, as he would always say himself said, I have less time, he would say. Okay, so
Yeah.
in one context, he quotes Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami. Because Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami, what he does is when he starts Madhya Leela and Ante Leela, he doesn't talk about Madhya Leela, Ante Leela. He directly talks about the ecstasies of Mahaprabhu in one or two chapters in Madhya Leela in the beginning. And he says also, I don't know if I have time to live long to write everything in detail. So whatever is the conclusion of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's activities are presented here in two chapters, so that even if I pass away, at least this is there with the devotees. Krishna Swaraj Goswami writes like that in Chaitanya
Mm-hmm.
Charitamrita Madhya Leela. And Prabhupada there, he commits that I am also in the same situation. He says, I am
Mm.
also very old. Prabhupada says, I don't know how many time I have. That is why Prabhupada says, I gave the Krishna book, which is the essence of Bhagavatam. I put the highest thing immediately to everybody. Are you getting it? See,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, Prabhupada himself has said that. It's not that I'm putting that words in the Prabhupada's mouth. He himself said it, that I have less time. I want to focus on the ultimate thing right in the beginning itself. Because come on, at the age of 71, he's starting something. And if he wants to experience step by step all these things, and there's no guarantee also whether there's enough time to lead up to that. Okay, so I personally don't find any issue with that strategy, considering that it was the perfect thing to do. Considering and I mean it's so glorious in terms of what he achieved as a result of that. But my only take is what is wrong is if someone thinks that any other understanding of Gita we should not have. That I would see as a problem. Are you getting my
Mm.
point? That means if somebody says that because Karma Yoga is not spoken by Srila Prabhupada too much or something, though I will again not accept it because I believe that he has spoken about that as well. But if somebody says he has not spoken, so we should not touch on that, or we should not speak on that, then that goes against the Gita itself, because the Gita clearly starts from that and takes you up. The Gita doesn't leave you there, it takes you higher. But to deny the role of Karma Yoga only, just because, of an Acharya not touching that too much, so that is an issue, because if it is there, then you will have to accept it. Are you understanding the point?
Okay. Actually, outsiders, they say, for example, these people from other sampradayas who are not Vaishnavas, they say that if you have to, give in the conclusion also, you can give it in the explanation or the purports. Why to unnecessarily create issues with the translation? So that is their
Well,
point.
yeah, I've heard one point that, Prabhupada many times what he did, he had several purports which he referred, commentaries, and some commentary he would have in the purport, some commentary he would have in the translation, and some other commentary he would have in the word to word. Sometimes you
Hmm.
will see this, that in word to word there is one meaning coming out, in the translation there is another meaning coming out, in the purport there is a slightly different explanation.
Yeah, yeah.
This is also because of multiple explanations which exist by acharyas, which are multiple explanation doesn't mean anything contradictory, just that different ways of looking at a jewel, right?
Hmm.
So Prabhupada incorporated that differently in these three. My point is there is no issue with anything like that, but the only thing is if someone says, I'm again making the same point. If only someone says that I'm not going to accept the theory of Karma Yoga as important, then I have an issue, because hey, come on, Krishna has spent 6 chapters hammering that concept. So how can you reject it? Right?
Hmm.
You can't do Ardha Kukutanya with Krishna's Bhagavad Gita. You'll have to accept the 700 verses as it is, starting to end. Are you getting it?
Hmm. Okay, okay.
Yeah, that is the
All
only
right.
thing.
Thank you, bro.
All right. Anybody else with any other question? Is that Damodar Prabhu? Please go ahead. Yeah.
Very simple. Rohit, we spoke today about this not focusing only on one thing.
Yeah.
So that is okay, like in initial period, like till maybe he has not understood where he is good at. But in the life, suppose when he has now started, everything he has learned, he has spent good amount of time learning the other things as well. But when he understands that what the one thing he is good at, will it not be right to say that he can spend more, can focus on that in his later life?
Good
Like
point. Good
normally he
point.
can be.
Yeah, good point. Good point. See, that is why we have to look at the example of Arjuna. Arjuna was excellent with archery, correct? He's, he's well known. When you say Arjuna, then archer, na? Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, Yatra Partho Dhanurdaraha. In the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna is called as Dhanurdaraha, archer. Okay, so it is very clear that Arjuna was best at archery. That is what I'm saying. Even though he was best at it, even though he had discovered he's best at it, but still he had a very holistic life, right? He would go for Tirth Yatras, he would discuss philosophical things, he would get into the society, social issues. That Brahmana's son who lost all his children, he had to protect him. Music, dance. You see, please see Arjuna's life. See, Arjuna is the student of Bhagavad Gita, right? Please see Arjuna's life. Just because he was good at archery, Dhanurdaraha, because see, what happens is self-discovery means a very holistic growth of the self. And this is true with everybody. Even the student who is very good with studies, who wants to go to IIT, etc., he will have many other aspects of his self which he needs to discover, as in what he is good at, what he can do to be, more fulfilled, satisfied, etc. He will have to focus on that also. He cannot say that just because he's a student, even a good student who likes studies, even that person cannot keep studying 18 hours a day. He may do it if he wants to crack IIT JEE for 1 or 2 years, but he cannot do that lifelong. He cannot. That doesn't mean he's not interested in study, because it means that everything has that limit, right? Everything has that limit. So the self-discovery, that's why it's very holistic. And that's why I referred to that Coach Carter movie. That basketball coach guy, he made a very conscious and right decision to ensure that the students have a holistic life, academics, personal family life, and basketball. If somebody said only basketball, he would say no. You will end up mostly becoming a hippie only. Because if you keep doing only basketball, what is the guarantee that you are going to be in the basketball team of the United States? Most probably not. And then you this out. And this happens actually with many people. There are research that proves this. That even in our country, sometimes it doesn't happen in our community of devotees yet, but in places like Mumbai, it happens that someone invests a lot of time in cricket, in the coach, coaching professional cricket, unless to play gully cricket, which is actually more relaxing. But this professional cricket, it is done with a goal to get into the team, which can become extremely challenging because there are very few positions. I mean, 11 people play for a country at the end of the day. What is the guarantee you will reach that? There's no guarantee. And if you take that as the only thing in your life, and then if that doesn't happen also, and even if that happens, sometimes there is stress. You will see that sometimes with many cricketers also, they say that they are undergoing stress. It's a very surprising thing because game is supposed to relax you. But the very fact that it made you stress indicates that even you did not feel holistically satisfied playing like that day in, day out. Correct? Because you need a whole, and you see that. I mean, and some cricketers, I mean, you see this Virat Kohli nowadays, recently went, I think today or something, he went to Ujjain or somewhere in Madhya Pradesh, one Shiva temple, and recently he had gone to Vrindavan also. I think Neem Karoli Baba's temple he went, and hearing their talks, etc. So people are also surprised on social media. अरे ये cricketer है, दिन रात cricket खेलना चाहिए. नहीं ऐसा नहीं होता है. He's an individual. For him to grow in life, he has to also hear some philosophy. He has to connect to divinity. He has to have other aspects of his life also. How can it happen that only one thing he'll keep doing? He'll get frustrated in that. So that's what we are saying. Is that okay?
Yes, bro. Yeah, I just wanted to understand from like we see some people like Chaitanya Prabhu and the people who give this Bhakti Shastri and also their whole time goes in only one aspect at a particular time onwards. I'm not talking about the earlier part, what their how they have started on that time. Obviously, we need to focus on everything, but at one point onwards, what I'm saying is that they can focus. So is that
they may spend more time on one thing, but they will have their own needs to be met. I don't want to take individual examples here, but I hope from Arjuna's example we are clear about the point.
okay?
Yeah, okay. If no one else has any other comment, I just wanted to say that some devotees were asking. I don't know this timing for this class to keep it as 5:30 p.m. 5:30 to 6:30. I'll not keep more than 1 hour because online it's very difficult to give a very long lecture. So my plan is just to see 1 hour and then take some questions. So I was planning 5:30 to 6:30 from next time and 15 minutes question answers and not too much. Right? So we will continue this series. So devotees can give me suggestion also about the timing and everything. If 5:30 is okay or if some other timing only is good. Of course, everyone will have different things. Now here, there are devotees who join from other countries as well. So I'm not sure about the timing of people. But anyway, so currently my plan is to have it at 5:30 from next time. If anyone has any concerns, you can just let me know on WhatsApp. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai.
Hare